Hi, Stephen. I can't hear you. I can see the picture. Can't see any video or hear any audio at the minute. Hi, I can see your video. I can't hear the audio. Might have to enable it.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. I can hear you now.
All right. Well, good morning for me. Good afternoon for you, right?
Yeah, that's it. how how are you doing?
I'm doing excellent. How about yourself? How's life over
Good,
there on that
good.
side of the pond?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, it's kind of getting back to normal-ish a little bit. It's kind of easing the kind of like lockdown, so to speak. That kind of all kind of starts happening. July the 4th, they're opening like pubs and restaurants. And kind of, I think they're reducing like the social distancing. We've got a thing called social distancing, which is meant to be like 2 meters apart. I think they're shrinking that down to 1 meter apart. So it's gradually kind of, easing a little bit, but we'll see what happens.
Yep. Yeah,
Oh,
here it's we here I live in Arizona and we've opened up fairly significantly back up, and restaurants are open, but social distancing, and there's no real clear guidelines that I've seen other than reducing the number of people in a restaurant at any given time. So they've most restaurants have alternated tables, or they've taken half their tables out and things like that. All
yeah.
the servers and wait staff are all wearing masks. Some restaurants even require you to wear a mask to get to and from your table. Then once you're
Oh,
seated
wow.
at your table, you can take your mask off to eat.
Wow. Gosh. It's very different, isn't it? I mean, if somebody would have said to you like a couple of years ago, "Oh, by the way, this is going to happen," you'd be like, "What?"
Write that down. That's good fiction.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Or if I've been in the IT world for long enough that working from home has been part of my normal. But if you would have told me that everybody would be working from home, or the vast majority of people would be working from home, I'd say,
mm,
oh, no, there's too many corporate cultures that aren't ready for that.
yeah,
And yet they did it.
yeah. It's crazy. I mean, but I think that a lot of people have got used to this way of living, or they quite like it, and I think a lot of people might be finding that they don't want to go back to that job. They'd rather work at home, or they might have found something that they enjoy doing at home.
Yep. Yeah, that's one of the things I've always enjoyed about being able to work from home is I can take care of little things around the house in between a conference call, where when you're in the office, that time is consumed by water cooler talk and walking to the coffee machine, or going downstairs to the break or to the coffee shop and
Yeah,
buying a
yeah,
coffee and a donut. Now you haven't didn't have that option for a long time, and so it's just a matter of, I mean, when I work at home, start a load of laundry, water the lawn, check on the hot tub, things like that, just
yeah,
taking
yeah.
care of things. So
So it kind of has its perks. So you can kind of give a bit of TLC to the things that need it, and then do what you got to do.
exactly, and still get more work done than you would get done if you were in the office, because you'd be spending time. The only catch is that if I'm an introvert, so for me, working at home is great, because then when I'm not on a call, I can just be by myself.
Mm,
But it's a career risk, because if you don't network, and that's a valuable part, the water cooler talk and the coffee breaks with coworkers is important for careers.
mm.
People won't think of you. Like once I was working in the office at the time, most of the time, and there was two departments, and they didn't work when I started there. They didn't work together very well.
Mm,
There was an email with demands for, one was serving the other one. Here's what I need. And it
mm.
was just a push and shove. And when I started, I took a different approach and made friends with some of the people. And one day I was having lunch with, it was actually a Friday, having lunch with one of the guys from the other team. And I said, "So what are you doing this weekend?" He said, "Well, I'm working on this." And I said, "Oh, because I'm doing this, which is a conflict with what you're doing. What time are you doing that? Oh, we're supposed to start Saturday morning. I said, oh yeah, me too. Our
Mm,
bosses hadn't talked to each other. So we went
right.
back from lunch and got our bosses in the same room and came up with a better timing solution so that we weren't causing each other problems, or otherwise we would have had
Mm,
a really bad weekend.
yeah. No, yeah, like you said, there's that clash, isn't there? Like if you're in the workplace and you're in the office and the timing and things like that. And that's that communication, isn't it? I think that communication's key, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah. And so that's, one of the reasons I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. I try and
Mm,
minimize it, in small chunks here and there, but just to touch bases with people and my network. And I've got other tools that I use to make sure that no part of my network gets too far neglected. And
mm,
I can run reports off the database that I use and say, okay, who do I owe a phone call to? And it's not
yeah.
because I told you I'd call on this date. It's internally, I say, you know what? Adam's a good guy. We've got a lot in common, and I want to make sure I touch bases with him at least once a quarter.
Yeah.
So we talk today. It'll get a database entry for today, and 90 days from today, it'll pop up on my contacts due list. So I can
Mm,
say, oh yeah, I haven't talked to Adam in a while. Hey, I wonder how his podcast is going, or things like that.
yeah. Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I think I think that requires like a lot of self discipline in some way, doesn't it, as well, to stay organized and keep up to date with what you're doing as well. And I think that's like, one of the good things, like you said, about working at home is that you could have your own office, you could organize everything together. And so like in your work, 'cause I looked in your profile and you've done lots of different things, but you specialize in like the field of technology. And is it helping businesses with their through technology?
Exactly. My focus is on, I love technology. I'm as nerdy and geeky as they come, and I love talking and hearing about the latest greatest technology. But where I really come alive is when I find ways that that technology can help a business. Technology for technology's sake is fun, but it doesn't. You're not going to help a business grow with that. But when you can tell a business like a product that I work for now, we can help protect a business against ransomware. And that really makes businesses come alive. That they don't care about the technology and the names and everything behind the scenes. But when I'm talking to a CFO or a director of IT, and I
Mm,
explain to him in detail how ransomware happens, how he could get infected, and what our solution could do to protect him from that, should that happen, he goes, okay, where do I sign? Because
mm,
that now he's not buying technology, he's buying a solution.
mm,
And whatever technology I work with, that's my goal. Is I don't want to work with the technology that I can't apply or find an application for a business.
mm. So that like you said, that ransomware. So you mean like cyber attacks to protect their information and identity and
Well,
personal
yeah,
information?
the way ransomware works is a hacker will gain control of a company's servers, for example. And what they do is they will tell you for however many Bitcoin, they will release it to you. And usually they'll lock it for a half hour or something just to prove that they have control over it. At which point you have to decide, do I pay them millions of dollars or millions of pounds or something? Or do I just unplug all my systems, reformat, and start over as if I had a brand new environment? Usually what companies will do is say, okay, we're good companies, we take backups. How long have we been infected? So they
Yeah.
do the research and they think, okay, you know what? I think we got infected on Thursday. All right, let's take Wednesday's backup and restore that.
Right.
Now the ransomware doesn't have a control. The problem is that for a lot of companies, doing a restore of a system, even of one particular system, can take hours or in some cases days, just because of the time that it takes to, if they're backing up to tape still, that's a very slow process and they have to get a lot of work done. So what we can do is help do that in minutes instead of hours. And so it doesn't matter how big your system is. So if you say, well, I think we were okay yesterday, it only takes you a few minutes to try. And if you look and you say, no, we're still infected, well, let's go back to Tuesday. Oh, wait, let's go back to Monday. You could, even if you have to go back a week and you lose a week's worth of data, that's still better than having a complete wipe of your system, or being out of pocket millions of dollars with no guarantee that they will release you.
Gosh, that's crazy. Like, how? So would people who do this, is this like groups of people, would you say, or can like somebody learn it themselves how to do it and just go ahead and try and hack? Is it usually teams that operate together, if that makes sense, like groups of people that try and
Yeah,
carry
I haven't had any direct interaction on that end of things with the ransomware criminals. I'll call them what it is,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but it can be anything from a teenage. They call them script kiddies. Just a kid
Yeah,
that has finds a script to do this on the dark web, and
yeah,
they hack their school's computer to increase their grades, all the way up to organized crime in Europe or Asia,
yeah, yeah,
trying to control elections, for example.
yeah. Gosh. Yeah, there's so much to technology. It's quite fascinating, isn't it? Like you said, you've got like the normal internet, there's the deep web, and you've got the dark web. And half. I think I saw some crazy statistics, and it said like we use, I think, like the normal internet on the surface, and that's like a couple percent. And then you've got all this other data below where you don't see any of that. You don't see it.
Hmm. Yeah, it goes way down. It's like an iceberg. What we know about, without doing a little bit of digging, and it gets scary real quick.
Yeah. I've seen stories on YouTube about people's experiences, and I'm like, well, it's a bit like you shouldn't really play around with something you don't quite understand, do you? Because someone said you don't access the dark web; the dark web accesses you, or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely some risks involved in that.
Because I think, like you said, with technology and businesses, um, there must be uh, so much money and time probably has to go into businesses researching and trying to get the best software to protect their business.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
I worked for one company in the financial sector, and obviously finances is kind of a critical deal when you're talking about money transfers and things like that. They actually had a whole department of people that were continuously trying to hack their own systems from the outside.
oh
So
wow,
and they were really good. They're called white hat hackers. They're hacking for good. And there's the big Black Hat conference. Well, typically it's in person in Vegas, and they actually have competitions there. And this company, their team of their employees that had gone to Black Hat had come in either first or second place, like 3 or 4 years in a row. Just that's all they did. I mean, your job is to go into work every day and try and get into a system of your employer without using anything your employer gave you.
wow. So
So,
they
and
just
that's try and
sorry.
find different ways, whether that's sending email to people. I would, at least once a month, I would get an email that if I wasn't paying attention, I might accidentally click on it. And um, that was not, and usually what would happen, because once or twice they did catch me off guard, and the name sounded familiar, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's Bob over in security. Click. Oh no, I should have looked a little more closely, because the last name was spelled wrong and it was a different email address, and
Mm,
so they were doing things like that. But when that happened, part of that was education of the users of the company to know what to look for, because that when that happened, it would pop up and say, busted, you weren't paying enough attention, you need to pay more attention to your email when you're reading.
mm,
This could have been a hacker.
mm. Yeah, yeah. I got hacked a few years ago. I got an email and I was sorting out my tax for my So like tax rebate where you reclaim, you get money reimbursed for overpay
Hmm.
if you overpay tax.
Right.
And I was sorting it out around that same time, and I got an email and it said HM Revenue Customs, which is the our government side that sort all the finance out. And it said, "Oh, you're entitled to a tax reimburse of like I think £700." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that looks legit." So I put in my details and pressed enter, and I think I had like £1,000 go on my account within like the next day. And then I was then overdrawn, and then the banks couldn't really do much other than block my account. But I ended up getting the money back within a couple of months. But yeah, you've just got to keep an eye out and be very aware what you press and what you access.
Yep.
Easy as
Yep.
that.
Exactly. I mean, and I don't, you may have seen, I do a lot of traveling as well.
Yeah.
And so that adds a huge factor. I was in Africa. I was in Nigeria for work, and I landed and was having dinner with some colleagues. And several of my colleagues, I was working for IBM at the time. Several of my IBM colleagues told me separately, don't use a credit card when you're here. Don't use a credit card when you're here. Well, if you do use a credit card, use a corporate card because they can fight it better. And they were warning, and they one person told me of a manager, and his first trip to Nigeria, he used his a debit card, a bank card, um,
Mm.
at the airport to buy coffee. By the time he got to his hotel, and that was his first stop, he already had a message. He logged in to check his email when he got to his hotel, and he had a message from his bank saying your account is at zero balance.
Wow. Jeez.
So that,
Wow.
when you travel, you need to really have your radar on, no matter
Mm.
where in the world you are, because things operate differently. A lot of
Mm.
places in Latin America, in the U.S., when you're paying a check at a restaurant or something, you don't think twice about putting your credit card in the little folder, and the server carries it to the back room and comes back, and you sign it and put your card back in your wallet and leave. And a lot of places in Latin America, they're so conditioned to not let the card out of your sight that when you want to pay by credit card, they go get a portable machine, bring it over to your table, you hand them the card, they run it through the machine and hand the card right back to you. So the card never
Wow.
leaves your sight, which is a
Wow.
good thing, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I've worked I've worked in the hospitality industry for a while, like in hotels and restaurants, and yeah, I've had people go like this. You know, they're having a meal with the family, and they've had a few drinks, and they can go, "Yeah, here you go." And sometimes they pass me their wallet, and they're like, "You just get it out," and I'm like, you know, oh, they pass me like some of their cards, and like, "Oh yeah, just give it us back when you finished." And I'm like, "Sir, this is I can't, it's." Yeah, it's. I think that's how it should be, really, because you can kind of see what's going on.
Yeah, but again, combining the two things, travel and technology, a lot of your bank cards now you can set up for alerting. And
Mm.
I've got a couple cards that will alert me every time a charge goes through. So whether it's $7 at Starbucks or $2,000 at Best Buy, um,
Yeah,
I'll get a text message saying your American Express was just used at this location for this amount, which is really handy when I have that card for like Amazon and things like that, and I've got recurring things that I order. I'm like $12. Oh, that's right, this is coming So it
yeah,
helps me not forget about the recurring Netflix subscriptions and things like that you
yeah,
can forget about.
yeah. No, I agree. I think they're getting better with like online banking. I use online banking, and I can check what's going in and what's going out. But sometimes I've had random transactions go out, and I'm like, it's got a random name on it, and I'm like, I didn't really have that go out, so I had to report it. But it just makes it's something that we kind of probably don't think about. It's so easy probably not to think about. Whereas I think 21st century and the way things are, it's probably one of the first things you should think about where your money's going and how you're paying with things. I had it. I found that there's like a kind of loophole with like Amazon. If you buy some things on Amazon, there are third party companies, and if you're trying to get your money back, the company saying, "Oh, it's not our problem, it's Amazon," and they kind of refer the problem to them, and you're trying to get this refund and this money, and you just don't know who you're paying sometimes.
Yeah, there's things that show up on Amazon Marketplace that aren't Amazon, and you're buying it. It charge is going through Amazon's systems, but it's somebody down the street or across the country. I mean, there's things I've ordered on Amazon that I didn't realize I wasn't ordering from Amazon until I saw the charge on my bank account that was from some Oriental sounding name, and it turns out I ordered a webcam from China.
Yeah.
And actually, I don't know. Is the quality pretty good? I think you can see me. That's
Yeah.
what I'm using.
I can, yeah, I can see you fine. But no, it does blow your mind sometimes. I mean, my mum orders on Amazon, and she ordered like a kind of gazebo thing for the garden.
Mm-hmm.
And when she ordered it, it arrived, and there was no. They didn't send any bolts for the screws, and they didn't really send any instructions either. And they sent instructions in an email which weren't very clear. And I'm like, who did you buy this? She was like, I bought it on Amazon. I was like, yeah, but was it Amazon or was it someone in the
Mm-hmm.
middle between? But yeah, it's so important to be aware of these things, I think. And yeah, I think like sometimes you have to have your hand kind of bit to kind of like realize, oh, I need to be more aware next time.
Yeah, that's part of the lessons of life is you don't pay attention to some things until you get bit by them, and then you remember those lessons. Your parents could tell you, watch out for this or pay attention to this 100 times, but until the first time it actually hurts you, you're going to start paying attention more.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, I saw that you got your new book out
Yep.
recently.
Yep.
Which looks really awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
surviving business travel.
Yep. It's a little new take on that, on what I wrote there with COVID, because that's changing a lot of things. But
Yeah,
really, my goal was, you probably heard people say, oh, I wish I could travel as much as you do, because I'd love to be able to travel and have my company pay for it. And I was not more than once I'd be talking with somebody, and one person would say, oh, you're so lucky, and somebody else would jump in and say, oh no, business travel isn't that great. And so I really wrote this book for both of those people, usually the younger people that haven't done much business travel, that are still excited about it or excited about the possibility of doing it, and the more grizzled veterans who have been burned out excuse me, on business travel and tired of it. And both of those people can learn something. The burned out person can find some ways to re-energize their business travel and get more enjoyment out of it. And the person who hasn't started business travel yet can really maximize the benefits that you can get from business travel. The points, the miles, the status, and loyalty programs and things like that. And at the same time, learn the lessons, hopefully in advance, of not getting burnt out. Because it's much more fun to do something you wanted to do, you do it and you enjoy it, and not get burned out on it. Whereas if you just jump in with both feet and not paying any attention to the fact that it might not be fun after a while, you get burned out on it and then you don't like it. It would be much better if you just jump in with your eyes wide open and learn to do a few things from the beginning that keep things on a more even keel.
Yeah. I think, like you said, with business traveling, like you said, if you don't enjoy something and you've got to travel to all these different places, and you don't enjoy that job or something you don't like, I mean, I couldn't imagine. I mean, if someone said to me, tomorrow you're going to, I don't know, like California, and it's this long of a flight, and you've got to do 3 meetings, and you don't like that job, and you're traveling all that time and all that energy, it's difficult. And like you said, it would burn you out, wouldn't it? Like,
yeah, well, most of the time, the people I talk to like their work. The business travel wears them down. Like, I mean, for years I had a lot of international trips where, you know, I was in I flew over to London for meetings on Tuesday. Tuesday after our meetings, we flew to, no, actually it was the next morning, we flew to Dublin and had some meetings late morning or early afternoon there, and then a day later I flew back to the US. It was a long trip in a short time, and, you know, 3 to 6 hours worth of meetings in each city. It can wear you out, even if you enjoy, and most people enjoy the work part of it, or they wouldn't be in that career to begin with.
Mm.
You know, for example, for me, usually that involves sitting with in a room with other technology minded people or business people who are interested in what technology can do for them.
Mm.
And so I enjoy that. And I
Mm.
just happen to also enjoy the travel. But
Mm.
if I didn't enjoy the travel, I wouldn't enjoy the work. So
Yeah.
with some thought and consideration, that I've got some tips and suggestions in the book to help people approach that in a better way. And then they can enjoy the work. And even if they don't like to travel, they can get more out of it and actually find better ways to tolerate it, find better ways to adjust to it and deal with it.
Mm. No, I think that's a really good. I think that's a really good thing you've done, and you know, by making that book, and I think it's like you said, something that people need who are traveling, you know, for like a business, and you know, to try and help them break the ice and not get too burnt out and stressed. I think, you know, like, and that will assist people in doing that job or doing, you know, going to that meeting. Because like you said, like, you know, 3 different time, you know, those different time zones within a short space of time.
Yeah, and that actually wasn't my toughest trip. I mean, I had a 3-week trip where I was in 5 different countries in Asia. I had no meetings in the same time zone. So I was everywhere from South Korea to India to Australia to Singapore and Thailand,
Wow.
in within three
Wow.
weeks.
Gosh.
So yeah, I
That's,
left the U.S. on Tuesday early morning, and I landed in Bangkok Thursday night. That
wow.
was the kickoff for my trip.
Yeah. What an amazing experience, though, as well. I mean, with that, I mean, probably as well with that, you're seeing all these different cultures and ways that people live in these different places. So, I mean, that must be a perk in some aspect. You know, you're seeing lots of different places and probably some places that people don't get the opportunity to see.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I'm just grateful that I managed to find the time and work the time schedule in to be able to take a little bit of time to do some sightseeing. But I traveled to Peru probably 5 or 6 times now. At least 3 of those times I was in the country for less than 24 hours. Just because of my
Wow.
trip schedule was usually involved spending a day in Peru. So
Yeah,
I'd fly, and the flight I took got me in at red eye. So I'd get in there at midnight or 1 a.m. and I would sleep for a couple hours, get up, go to the meetings for all day, go back to the hotel, grab my suitcase, grab a bite to eat on the way back to the airport, and catch the next red eye flight to the next country on my trip.
yeah.
You know, but even in those trips, I managed to find a couple hours. You know, I'm going to eat anyway. I can either go to the airport early and eat at a hotel, at a restaurant at the airport, or
Mm,
I can leave my bags at the bellhop at the hotel and
mm,
ask the concierge, what's the best typical Peruvian place I can eat around here. And he says, "Oh, how long do you have?" "Well, I've got 2 hours before I need to head to the airport." He's like, "Okay, well, you go down here and take a left. There's this little dive bar, and my friend Jose runs the place. Tell him I sent you, and you have just the most amazing time. It's just,
mm,
you get the best food. It's like your long lost family member because somebody referred you there, and you mentioned their name, and they're actually good friends or cousins, and you know, you actually experience more of the culture than you would if you just walk in and order off a menu."
mm, mm.
So that's the little
Yeah.
things that you can do to get more connection with the culture instead of just trying the food, you know, meet the people, try the food all as part of one package. Then you're getting a whole different taste of the
Mm,
country.
mm. Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it's so important to travel, isn't it? Like I've been to a few places. I went to New York last January with my friend, and that was amazing. For 4 or 5 days we went, and yeah, like you said, to see different cultures and see how things work. You know, I think you grow as a person in some way.
Yeah.
Definitely, I think it makes you think as well when you travel, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was actually raised in another country, so I grew up. Part of my growing up was here in the U.S. and part of it was in Ecuador.
Oh
So
wow.
I grew up multicultural. So my mindset has always been understanding different people, different cultures better than other people at times, just because that's I was raised
Mm,
differently. So I know, what it's like to not fit in. When my first day of third grade, I was taller than everybody in my grade school. I stood out like a sore thumb. I was the only person that didn't have jet black hair, and I didn't speak a word of Spanish.
mm,
So my mom said she said, I'll stay right outside your classroom, and if you have a question, just raise your hand. The teacher will nod at you and point to you, and you can come out and ask me your question. And so first recess, third grader, I'm in a new country. I don't speak a word of the language. I'm standing there next to my mom just crying because I don't know how I'm gonna figure this stuff out. And one of my classmates came up and asked my mom. He said, "Is your son retarded?" And my mom said, "What?" And he said, "Yeah, is he mentally retarded?" And she said, "No, why would you ask that?" He said, "Well, he's taller than us, so he must be older. He doesn't speak Spanish. He doesn't read Spanish, and he doesn't speak or doesn't read, speak, or understand
yeah,
Spanish." That, third grade logic, that was made a lot of sense.
yeah,
And she's like, "No, actually, in our country, a lot of people are a lot taller, first of all.
mm,
And in our language, he's actually a very good reader. He reads at like an advanced level because I was reading at sixth grade level when I was in third grade."
mm,
And she said, "Now imagine," and she tells this little boy, "Imagine if tomorrow you came to our country where nobody spoke Spanish and
yeah.
nobody looked like you. How would you feel?" And he said, "Oh, I'd be scared." So he put his arm around me and said, "Soy Juan, quiero ser tu amigo." And he told my mom to translate, and she said, his name is Juan, and he wants to be your friend." And that was
Wow.
my first friend. And 2 weeks later, I was correcting my parents' Spanish.
Wow.
So,
That's
when you have that kind of immersion, you know how it feels to feel different.
yeah.
And you also understand how it feels to be accepted, even though you're different. And so that's why, inclusiveness and acceptance is just kind of a part of my core values of what, I don't care what your background is. I'm going to accept you based on who you are and not what you
Mm,
look like or what language you speak.
yeah. Gosh. Yeah. No, I completely agree, and I think like that experience, going to a different country and like you said, not knowing how to speak or like because of that language barrier and that culture and like you said, the size of how what you were compared to them, like you felt like they don't belong here. But then again, on the flip side, he would feel the same, and they would feel the same. If they went to like America or somewhere else.
Hmm.
What is it that kind of took you there? Was it like your parent? Like was it your parents working over there? Or
Yeah, my parents were missionaries, so we moved down there before I started third grade, and third grade came around, and so it was time for school.
yeah, yeah. How long was you there? Sorry.
Total of 10 years. We came back to the States for 1 year. My sixth grade was back in the U.S. And it's kind of funny because a lot of people have this vision in their mind of some countries being third world countries and maybe not as good of an education. When we came back for sixth grade, I had to take standardized tests to make sure that I could be in sixth grade. They didn't want me to be held back in the class, so I took all their tests. And if you scored a 5.9 or better, you were ready for sixth grade. I scored above a 7 on all of my subjects except for English, which makes sense because English was kind of a special. I had a special tutor for English grammar and literature and things like that. But I scored a 6.9, which basically meant I was ready for 7th grade educationally when I started 6th grade in the U.S. So
Wow.
I had a better education, I feel, down there than I would have in the U.S.
Gosh, that makes you think, doesn't it? Like, how do you? How you
and and it's a whole different system down there too, because in the US at least, it's a very textbook heavy educational system.
Hmm.
You have a textbook and you read it, and then you have a teacher lectures about it, and you may have some class discussion about it. And down there you had the same lecture and discussion about things, but it would alternate. And there would be two classes on a given topic, and the first hour was dictation, and the teacher would talk slowly, and your goal as a student was to write it down as fast as you could to keep up with him. So you were
Wow.
basically writing your own textbook as you went.
Jeez.
And then part of your homework was to transcribe that into more legible copy in your subject book. And then you would be ready for the class when he would discuss, and he'd say, oh, what year did this happen? Okay, and why was that important? And so because you now have written it twice,
Hmm.
you kind of absorbed a little bit more than you would have if you just read it and kind of in one ear out, in your eyes, out your ears,
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's a much better way to learn, I find. If Because then again, it's up to you, isn't it? You're writing it down, and I think through writing things down, you take it in more. I found if I write notes or if I read something, you write it down and you absorb it, and through that repetition, rather like you said, in the way that a lot of other schools operate, especially when I was at school. Like you said, teachers read off something, you're sat there, you listen to it, and half of it goes in, and then the other half goes out, and then I think you end up, unless you take notes or you work on it, you. I remember having school days and having all these subjects, and then afterwards I'm like, what did I learn today? And I'm like thinking I've had. So
One of the people I like to follow online, and I've taken a couple of his classes, is I don't know if you've heard of Jim Quick,
yes, Jim Quick.
KWIK. One of the things he talks about is note making, not note taking. And if you just try, most people, when they take notes, try and capture exactly what was said or the information that was conveyed. And that's part of it. There's some important factors that you need to write down to help you remember that. But he divides the page in half, and on the other side, he says to use it for note making, and basically make notes about how did that make you feel, how could you use that, and things like that, as you're be questioning and as you go, and writing down things like that, so you're engaging
Mm,
both halves of your brain,
mm.
and you get more retention that way.
Yeah, because I think if you mix emotion with something, you remember it a lot better, don't you? Like if experiences, whether that's positive or negative, they stand out more.
Exactly. Yeah, he says all learning is state dependent. If you're
Mm,
sitting in your calculus class and you're bored and you're tired and you're not really all there, you're not going to remember much of it. But if you go in
mm,
there and say, oh, if I learn this part of calculus, I'm going to be able to use it for my dream job of whatever,
mm.
then you're excited to be there. You don't have to be there. It's why people enjoy elective classes at the university so much more sometimes than the mandatory classes. You have to
Mm,
take a history class. I really don't care what date this happened, because
mm.
I just have to take that class. Whereas if
Yeah,
you're a history major, that's your choice. You're choosing that. That's what makes you come alive. You're going to remember that stuff better.
yeah. Makes you realize, isn't it? Like why like the school system. People going to school, they're being told information that, like you said, they're not, unless they're interested in it, then they'll absorb it. Whereas if it's like, you have to do this, you have to do this.
Hmm.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I think education is very important. And I think, if you really like something, then pursue it. Because I saw that you got a master's in business. I'll put it down.
Global management.
Global management. Yeah.
Yep.
So what does that involve in, or was it in some way?
Well,
Global.
the coursework was amazing because I've been, having been raised in another country, so and having traveled into over 25 countries, I had a I thought I had a pretty good grip on what the world looks like and how the world operates in different places, and I did. But what the some of the coursework gave me, talking about different cultures, is understanding at a more intellectual and formalized way the things I already knew.
Hmm.
And I knew things in a certain way. Like, I'll give you an example. I went to, different countries have different impact on our different weight to relationships.
Hmm.
In the U.S., business is business. You walk in, and if I ask you too many questions about your personal life before we start talking business, you look at me kind of funny because you're wasting my time. This is a business
Hmm.
meeting. How my dog's doing doesn't really matter. Uh, but in a lot of Latin America, they are a lot more social and relationship driven. So
Hmm.
I was in one country, and I was going with a sales guy down there to visit a customer, and the meeting was at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And I said, "So what's a normal working day here?" He said, "Oh, usually people are done by 4 or 5 in the afternoon." I said, "So is this after hours meeting?" He said, "Yeah, they agreed to take this meeting because you're here in town and they wanted to meet you and hear what you have to say. So it's really more of a favor for them to accept my meeting." And so we sat down and they offered us coffee. And since the sales guy I was with said, "Yes, please," and I said, "Yes, please." So I'm having coffee at 5 p.m. in the afternoon in a meeting in an office that's almost empty because most of the people in the office had gone home already. And I'm meeting with the manager, and we spent 10 or 15 minutes chatting. What do I think about Buenos Aires? How long have I been here? Where else have I been? Where did I grow up? Where did I learn Spanish? We spent 15 minutes talking before we said, "Oh, you know what? It is after hours. We don't want to take up too much of your time. Let's talk about the reason you agreed to meet with us." And he said, "Okay."
Hmm.
And he was very open to that meeting.
Hmm.
But he wasn't open to it just because I had a great product and his business needed it. He was open to that meeting because of the relationship he had with the sales rep. And it's a whole different approach to business depending on what part of the world you're doing business.
Hmm.
And so a lot of the curriculum in the master's program I took helped understand that, helped understand how businesses operate differently because of that.
Wow. Gosh, what an experience. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Um, I've watched you ever seen The Apprentice?
I
The
watched a few
program,
episodes. Yeah.
and it reminded me what you said about relationships and business meetings. I find I'm quite empathic, and I'm very sociable, and I like to touch base with people. And I think, like you said, in business, there's that very kind of, I mean, it is corporate, but there's that very the business is business, or there's that side where how you doing, where you're building that rapport and that relationship, and you're just touching base. I think, in my mind, that's quite key because you're connecting with that person, you're gaining that relationship. You're talking about, like you said, culture or where they're from, and then you talk about business. And I think do you think that can like break the ice a little bit and make that relationship a bit better? Where some people don't have that, and it's like I don't care, just get to.
Yeah, that I just participated in a mastermind where we were reviewing John Maxwell book. Everyone communicates, few connect, and that was one of the things that we talked about was ways that you can do more than just communicate. If I walk into a meeting and I have my agenda and I sit down and say, "Hi, Adam, I'm here because I want to tell you about this, and here's why it can help your business." okay, we're not going to connect. If I
Mm.
walk into a meeting and say, hey, Adam, how are you doing? Hey, I heard you were on holiday in New York last year. What did you think of that? You know, I still remember my first trip to New York. It was amazing. You know, those tall buildings, and I felt, we
Yeah.
connected more over that shared experience of talking about our first trips to New York.
Yeah.
Um, and that's a connection that then when we move to the next phase of the conversation and start talking about business, now now it's not just cold hard facts, it's a relationship. And I wouldn't be telling you about this if I didn't think it would help you, and
Mm.
you're going to say, okay, I get that. So
Mm.
that's such a huge part of all business. you know
Mm.
what are your favorite restaurants? Your favorite restaurants are the ones where the servers are friendly and remember you.
Mm.
You may only go there once every couple of months. There's a steakhouse my wife and I love, but the manager comes over to our table and says, oh, so good to see you guys again.
Mm.
He may or may not remember my name, but I think he does. But we only go there every couple of months,
Mm.
but yet we get welcomed warmly as if we're in there every night.
Mm.
That's one of our favorite places because of that.
Mm.
So it's that relationship. It's not just here's your food.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
McDonald's, fast food drive through. Okay, that's just something convenient to fill your stomach if you're in a hurry.
Yeah.
So
I think, like you said, if people go that extra mile, you're more likely to return. Um, I think, like you said, it depends. It is the drive-through. It is what it is. But
mhm.
like, I think that's why a lot of companies, um, why empathy is important, isn't it? Empathy and understanding people. Um, there's like, yeah, I know that business meetings and like that's corporate, and that's part of it. So you have, I think, like I said, I think there's a time and a place, isn't there? But if you can just break the ice and be kind, then and then go into business, I think it's more balanced.
Yep, absolutely. Well, just looking at the time,
Oh right,
I know I
yeah.
have something at the top of the hour, and don't want to
Oh
take
yeah,
up
sorry.
all of your day.
Yeah. No, of course. I'm sorry. I could talk all day too.
No, I enjoy it
you
as
know,
well.
yeah. But no, Stephen, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast, and it really really means a lot. And I all wish you all the best with your book as well.
All right. And just if you'd like, I'd be happy to send you a coupon code if you want to put in the show notes a link for your customers and your
Yeah,
listeners
yeah,
if they want to get some percentage off the sale. I would be happy to do that.
yeah. Of course, I'll be happy to.
All right. I will shoot you a message with that.
Yeah, sure. Thank you,
All right.
Stephen.
All right, Adam. Great talking to you.
You too. Take care.
You too.
All the best.
Bye.
Bye bye.